All right, I have the automatic gain control on the phone. So I'm going to speak to you and tell you how all this went down. As you know, I'm a registered nurse, and my sister's a registered nurse as well. I went to Ole Miss, she went to Belmont. But my sister's godmother was married to Jack Massey, and Jack Massey was a pharmacist by trade. And he and Dr. Friss teamed up and started Healthcare Corporation of America. And if y'all remember correctly, Healthcare Corporation of America went through all of America. They had to break it up because it was a trust. You know, kind of like Facebook and Google today, racketeering, all that. So, anywho, when George Bush Jr., Dr. Frist, and Billy Tauzin from Louisiana passed the what? The what? Come on with it. The Medicare drug benefit. Now, at that same time, they also rewrote the laws in this country. It used to be illegal to advertise prescription drugs to the American public. The irony, and I'm finding this in life so much, the irony is that when you couldn't prescribe or you couldn't advertise prescription drugs to the public, you could advertise cigarettes. Okay? And 70 years ago, doctors were smoking at the nurses' station and were actually in cigarette advertising. Roles have reversed now. Now, Billy Tauzin, when they passed that, he left the House of Representatives from Louisiana and went to become a what? A pharmaceutical lobbyist. How about that? That's the problem. You're watching mass media. You're watching a generation of news. The news is brought to you by who? The pharmaceutical companies. Ask your doctor which pills are right for you. And you're also watching how Americans are programmed. They don't call it program for nothing. You sat there and watched them all run around with masks on. Put the mask on, pat the mask off, put the mask on, put the mask on, put the mask on, put the mask on. All because of the television. And the fact that, the whole system's been bought off. And it goes back to in 1910, the Flexner Report was produced by the Rockefeller family and the Carnegie family. And they had a guy named Abraham Flexner go through the country and study all the modalities of health and healing. And yes, there are a lot of modalities of health and healing. It's not just allopathic pills, procedures, treatments, surgeries, yada, yada, yada. That's like secondary. It's preventative and whatnot and eating right. And look at our food. Look at what you buy at the supermarket. Go on the inside aisles and read all those little chemicals on there. Do you know what any of those are? Probably not. Has the FDA let us down? Maybe. So it blows me away. We stop it at this point. Now, we all believe in healthcare, and we all believe that people should be cared for and yada, yada, yada. But there's more to healthcare than just pills. And there's the news media needs to get a grip because evidently, they're in bed with the pharmaceutical companies. Because they get 70% of their revenue from big pharma. I mean, does this make sense? Is this hitting home? So, folks, call your representatives. The only way we're going to stop this, because the Rockefellers and the Carnegies and all these big money families from where? 1913 got in bed with the Rothschilds and the big bankers of Europe and started the Federal Reserve System. So now you're $27 trillion in debt, which that's one silver coin. Constitutionally, if a judge will grant us this, because if not, we're going to war. But this is the simple fact of the matter. These families that loan money to the government are also heavily invested in what? Big pharma, petrodollars, chemical, carbon. The carbon atom is one of the most incredible atoms there is. And yeah, plastics and carbon all come from what? Petrochemical and oil. Does that make sense? Does anybody follow this? I mean, follow me on this. So, I'm all for public transportation. I'm all for high-speed rail. I'm all for solar. I'm all for all this. But what they're trying to do right now is put in another grid of trade to where they actually have a trust and money control and whatnot, and basing it on health. And which is somebody that studied my ass off to be a nurse and actually help people, I find this all kind of, to my soul, distressing, if that makes sense. Anyway, call your representatives. We have to ban, at this point, just make it outlaw, FCC or whatever. I know you got freedom of speech and the damn, here's the amazing thing. The Supreme Court ruled on a pharmaceutical company. It was up in, it was over land rights in eminent domain. I think it was in Massachusetts, when this man did not want to sell his house. And it went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said that, yes, he had to sell his house because the pharmaceutical company that wanted to build a big office building there would bring jobs and whatnot. So this man's property was taken out from under him through eminent domain, not for public use, but because a pharmaceutical company wanted his land and that would bring jobs. Think about that, folks. Peace and love. Stay healthy.